Hello, my sexy and beautiful people of the internet. My name is Diego, also known as the Chilean Retro Gamer, and welcome back to the Retro Quest. Today playing Rival Turf on the Super Nintendo. This is post commentary, by the way, so if you hear me click and things like that, well, you will already notice why. So this is a beat 'em up made by Jalico, released in 1992. This is the first out of 3 games of the Russian Beat series, which is what this game is known as in Japan. Yeah, the 3 games are Rival Turf, Brawl Brothers, and the Peacekeepers, released in 93 and 94 respectively. So basically they released this a game of this series for 3 years in a row. And as you can see, it's a very fast-paced beat 'em up. It is fast-paced, you know, in comparison to, for example, the likes of Final Fight or even Streets of Rage. Actually, this kind of reminds me a lot in terms of the sprite size and the playability at times of the first Streets of Rage on the Sega Genesis. This is actually a fun game, even though it gets kind of repetitive, like pretty much most of beat 'em ups, relatively soon. That's kind of a problem in my opinion, but still fun to play. It is challenging as well, because even though, as you can see, it has a very generous amount of lives and continues, basically 4 or even 5 lives per continue, you have around 25 lives in total to clear the game with. But sometimes that's not even enough, since enemies could be really aggressive, especially this skinny fucker that usually kicks me. And well, enemies here are usually very fast, and again, there are enemies that are pretty much a joke that you will always have the priority to hit them, and there is no problem at all. This, what you can see right there, is the angry mode, which basically is a mini invincibility that you get if you get hit too many times. You don't sacrifice any of your health by doing it. There is a special attack that you saw me use a couple of times that does sacrifice some of my health, basically like the desperation attack, even though the angry mode is more of a desperation attack than the special attack as it is officially called. So let me read to you some of the official objective of the game, or object of the game, from the game manual, the original game manual. So, are you ready to rid the city of the evil influences of Big Al and his gang of menacing maniacs, the Street Kings? Looking for some body slamming, gut-wrenching action? If so, you won't be disappointed when you hit the streets of Rival Turf. A fast-paced, fist-flying adventure starring 2 daring defenders and a horde of no-good, down and dirty street scum. Rival Turf includes 6 demanding stages. Pretty much what I've said. I haven't even read this instructions manual yet, and it actually makes some of the comments I have been making myself. 6 demanding stages, which each with 2 or more separate scenes, for a total of 18 action-packed arenas. Fight Big Al's thugs on the streets, in buses, like right now, at the stadium, on rooftops, even in the jungle, Chilean Retro Gamer's house. These guys are everywhere and they don't let up. The heroes of Rival Turf are Jack Flack, the one I'm playing as right now, and his trusty friend Uzi, that I'm gonna be playing as actually after I lose this following continue, because I do lose a couple of continues in this run. Uzi Nelson. Choose your character, then go it alone or play with a partner as you defy the forces of decadence and destruction. A second player can join in at any time. Not so many beat 'em ups on the Super Nintendo had that property. I remember like one of the Sonic Blastman games, or even Final Fight, I think, didn't allow a second player being played simultaneously. So yeah, it's kind of a big property to have a simultaneous 2-player action in a Super Nintendo game. Anyway, let's see. Punch, kick, and slam your opponents before they do the same to you, or worse, scavenge for goodies like baked chicken and hot dogs to restore your strength. However, I have to say that food is not really common in this game as opposed to a lot of beat 'em ups. You don't find food all that often, probably once per level, but no more than that, to be honest. I'm not expecting to get refills all the time, but you really need them, especially since you get hurt a lot by a single attack of an enemy. Pretty much removes or drains around 60, 70 or 80% of your health right away. Here we have the first boss, which is a genie, as you can tell, and the name, of course, it makes it even more obvious. Genie. Originality at its finest. I mean, this game has a lot of that, let's be honest. Again, as much of a fast-paced, entertaining, and colorful action this game can provide, it is super generic and repetitive, which is obviously one of the things that we can... I mean, at the time it wasn't really that much of an issue because beat-em-ups were kind of a rocking genre at the time, and it was relatively new to gamers. I mean, to an extent. There were already a few by this time, by 1992, but not on the Super Nintendo, that's the thing. But yeah, by now we found them repetitive and such. You can also pick up weapons, as you can see, but they are not very good. And as you can see, once you defeat the boss, even the minor enemies that are around go away. So let's keep reading this. Well, what I just said. Pick up weapons along the way. Knives, wrenches, baseball bats, and hand grenades can give you a definite advantage over the competition. Each character has 7 different deadly moves, from body slams and uppercuts to sweep legs and pile drivers. Take advantage of the angry mode, which I already talked to you about in a few minutes ago, to do some serious damage. You are fighting mad to begin with, but when you really get angry, nothing's gonna stop you. It basically is a mini invisibility feature. Each player begins the game with 5 lives. As I said, it appears 4, but also includes a life zero essentially. When you lose your last life, you can start over or continue the game up to 8 times. Wait, 8 times? It says 5 continues here. I don't know, I checked the options and I didn't see anything about increasing the amount of continues. Anyway, fight the boss at the end of each stage to advance to the next location. If you make it to the end of stage 6, get ready for the ultimate challenge, the showdown with Big Al himself. Tired of fighting the forces of evil? Then take a timeout and grapple with your partner in a no-holds-barred head-to-head contest where skill and ruthlessness will decide the winner. Awesome 3D graphics. Wait, where's the 3D here? And brutal sound effects put you right into the action from the first scene to the final furious confrontation. So roll up your sleeves, which is actually something I do when playing games, and get ready for an all-out assault on the Street Kings and their belligerent boss. If you're looking for a non-stop action and power-packed excitement, you are come to the right place. Rival Turf! So yeah, sorry for reading this. Probably I'm gonna be doing this when I do the post commentary. It's actually interesting to see the official statements and the official terminology for some of these games. So yeah, here we are in stage 2, which is the stadium. Another thing that can, I mean, definitely remind you of Streets of Rage. Also, I'm rocking that bass in the music. The music is actually not the greatest thing, but actually it is kind of cool and reminds me a lot of the some of the late 80s and beginning 90s Sega arcade games, even though this is completely unrelated to Sega. This is not a port for any arcade, by the way. The 3 games of the Russian Beat series are completely original beat-em-ups released only for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. What I don't know, to be honest, except for the ending, I don't think I know any other difference between Rival Turf and Russian Beat, which is the original name in Japan for this particular game. So let's see some of these enemies. We have Arnold, of course, called after a certain someone. I mean, we all know that. We have these 2 guys, Kato and Goro, which are essentially like some sort of Ryu rip-offs. One of them wearing black and yellow, and the other one wearing white and red, just like Ryu. Those are kind of dangerous because they can actually make jump kicks like suddenly, and they have a very big range, even though technically it might look like they're not touching you, but they do, and they do plenty of damage. By the way, actually, now that I remember, the special attack, the one that, for example, in the case of this guy, is basically like some sort of spinning kick on the floor or something like that. Actually, it doesn't decrease your health. As you can see up there, there is a number 10 above the face of an enemy, essentially. Well, you get special attacks depending on the amount of enemies you kill, which is something that I think the manual doesn't say. But yeah, the angry mode here is basically gets activated. You can actually turn it off on the options. I think you saw me turn it on when I was checking out the options. But in the case of the special attack, I think you get 1 every 10 enemies that you kill. I might be wrong about that, but if I'm not mistaken, that number 10 is basically the amount of enemies. Well, 10, 10, 10 plus 5 faces. Basically, it would be 35 enemies. So I should be allowed to use at least 3 or 4 special attacks. I don't know if it is 5 enemies that you need to kill or 10 in order to be allowed to use the special attack. But yeah, it doesn't sacrifice your health, but it's basically you are granted special attacks depending on how many enemies you defeat. I could have actually checked the manual and show you, or like read to you the story for the game with all the dialogue, because there is some funny dialogue here, but I'm not going to. I mean, we already understand that there is a big owl guy who is threatening the city, and you basically have to travel from coast to coast, from the west to the east. We are in California, apparently, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you can check the map, and you move to the east, basically to defeat all the gang and Big Al himself. Again, I'm sure these names are completely different, including the final boss's name. Even the plot, I think, is sort of different when it comes to showing the ending. So it will be a good exercise to see the differences between the two games. So yeah, the first boss was the genie. This one is Sledge. That was a good glitch, by the way. So yeah, apparently he's some sort of gymnastic guy, whatever, with a radio. What are these things called? Beambox or something? Boombox or something. But yeah, super 90s. He does some sort of air attack. Yeah, by the way, what's the best strat to take on the enemies, in my opinion? Because again, I played this game like 3 different attempts, 3 different times, and in 2 of them I lost all of my continues in stage 3 or 4. I mean, it's really easy. But I did the one good run here, which is the one that I'm showing you here. Stage 3, things are looking up, of course, smart names for a skyscraper area. So the best way to approach enemies, well, it all depends on the enemy, clearly, but I mean, you can tell what enemies are simpler to defeat just by using your fists, using your punches here. I mean, these enemies are not too terrible. But for example, the guy called Skinny, that if you get too close to him, he kicks you, or these guys that look like Ryu and Ken that can also kick you with a jump kick. This is the Skinny guy. I think the best way to approach him is to grab him, to do a throw. And the way to approach him is basically by getting to them, not frontally, but from the top and bottom of the screen. I think that's the best way to at least get closer to those guys, which is exactly what I'm trying to show here. Even though I'm punching, but I don't go frontally towards him and punch him afterwards, because that usually results in this Skinny guy kicking you many times, like this Reggie guy just did, and basically you have no chance to react. And literally by 3 kicks by this Skinny dude, you lose around 70 to 80% of your health bar in this current life. double dynamite in your face. It doesn't drain so much energy though. I think the throws are the most damaging things in the game, and I insist, it is relatively easy to throw enemies in this particular game. Well, Arnold is the grabber, the guy who does the throws, powerful throws, and of course they take a lot of your health. I would say this Arnold guy, Skinny, and the Ryo and Ken dudes are probably the three most annoying enemies in the game. And again, especially in the case of Skinny, when he's distracted throwing dynamite, because some of them do, that's the kick I'm talking about. You cannot get out of it. I mean, sometimes I felt more daring and I went for it. Okay, here we have other generic big guys. Kind of reminds me of the stone enemies, the rock enemies in Ninja Turtles. These ones are relatively easy to get rid of because you can grab them. They are rather slow, they are powerful, they can do this elbow attack. But if you get yourself close to them, no problem. Well, here we have a guy called Gigante, which is the same guy that is basically called Arnold with the sunglasses, but this one doesn't have the sunglasses. Again, in that regard, this game is really generic and predictable. Also, shoutouts to Left! Something that cannot, you know, not to be present in a beat-em up. Even though in this one it's basically a cutscene, you don't fight on the elevator itself. Oh, chicken that I don't need right now. That's the best way to deal with enemies. Get them from below or from above the screen instead of going right at them from, you know, one-on-one frontally. Again, there are enemies that are in which you can easily do that, no problem, but for the most part I recommend to do that and execute the throws. Special attacks are okay, but I think they're better on bosses because they do a lot of damage. The range is not the best. It's not really necessarily something that great for crowd control, which is kind of the function for the majority of beat 'em ups, for the usage of special attacks. Basically to get rid of 5 enemies that are surrounding you from both directions or from the 4 directions, and there is no way to take them out one by one. So, but in this game it doesn't seem to be that great in that regard. Maybe you can kill an enemy right away, but just one. And again, angry mode is actually interesting to, in the sense that it gives you temporary invincibility. As for the special attack, I made the mistake of basically accumulating so many special attacks because of the amount of enemies I have defeated, but I haven't used any. The problem is that I am on my last life in this current continue, and if you lose all of your lives, even if you have more continues, you lose all of your special attacks by getting a game over. And I realized that too late, to be honest. I don't know if I get killed in this one or at the beginning of the next level, but yeah, it's one of the things that basically had to realize much later than I should have. And of course it is a classic that the boss itself is not much of an issue, but the minor enemies surrounding him are more of a challenge than the boss himself. Super generic names for all of these bosses. So we have the Genie, Sledge, and now we have the Slasher. Probably not Vega. Or Balrog, depending on the region. And as you can see, I already defeated the boss, so the minor enemies go away. Well, this pretty much indicates half of the game. You move from the west coast to the east coast, or to the south, more like. South of the border. Yeah, my helicopter actually crashed into the jungle. It wasn't a pretty landing. I think my first 2 attempts at this game, playing it legit and everything, I think I made it up to the end, the boss of this particular level. So again, if you make sure to, you know, throw your enemies more than punching them, you can survive a lot. You can maintain your continues for a very long time. However, if you do what I did at first, basically go punch everybody without throwing, I literally lost 3 continues or 2 continues in the first stage. I'm not joking. Again, it's super fast paced, it is entertaining game to play, but again, if you get caught by enemies, most likely you're gonna be losing plenty of lives right away. And again, I keep getting enemies defeated near 1,000, which gives me a lot of special attacks, which I lost all of them when I lost this life. Most likely it's gonna happen before the end of this video. But yeah, it is a thing. So this is the other type of enemy that I didn't really describe so much. The big enemy that does a couple of special moves, this spinning kick, and he does the E-Honda. So in such case, sometimes it is better to take on him, and then when he wakes up, or when he stands up, get away from him, wait for him to do the special attack, and then counter. But in the girl state, he just walks around, he doesn't do much. And angry mode. Well, the angry mode is not just invisibility, but actually makes your combos better. Look at that, there is a number 100 up there. So that's easily 10 specials that it could have used. But again, they are especially useful against the boss. Well, last boss wasn't too bad. Okay, here's the loss of my first continue, and when I continue, I don't know if it was because I used a different character, I don't know. But I wanted to try out this Uzi Nelson guy, which doesn't look like Bison at all. Yeah, he's like the powerful guy, slower than the main guy. Apparently more powerful, but in terms of the damage he takes, I think he takes more damage than the other fast guy, which is kind of normal in these games. Like, I mean, take Mike Hager as an example, or Max from Streets of Rage. He's the powerful guy, he is slower, but when he takes damage, he takes a lot of it, and that's not pretty. One cool thing about this game specific, basically what I read in the manual, I'm gonna read it again for you guys, so we know what we're talking about here. Oh yeah, here. Rebel Turf includes 6 demanding stages, each with 2 or more separate scenes for a total of 18 action-packed arenas. So the amount of environments is actually cool, because you are in a city, well, they say here, and they find on the streets, in buses, at the stadium, on rooftops, even in the jungle, which is the current level I'm in. This is a sort of prison camp or something. POW camp or something. Well, the thing is, yeah, I like levels or beat 'em ups that, even though in terms of gameplay and enemy variety get a little bit repetitive, it is cool to see like different environments in them, which is one of the things that made Streets of Rage so awesome in general. because there was a little bit of everything, like cities and natural environments as well, mansions, and you know, a little bit of everything. And as you can see, the angry mode for this particular character is a little bit more fancy looking than the other guy. And then you realize it's not just invincibility, it's actually a more powerful move, a more powerful throw. And as you know, throws are lethal in this game. They're super extra powerful. This guy's special attack is pretty much similar to Zangief's spinning attack. But again, it's not that great with the crowd control. It doesn't have the best reach or range. Well, another method to actually get rid of enemies in a safe way, but it is definitely slower, is jump kicking. Well, in this case, this guy doesn't kick when jumping, when doing a jump attack. More like he uses his body, like a body slam. But yeah, it does very little damage, but I think it's safe. Except for one enemy, which is the Kato, you know, the Ryu ripoffs. Remember guys, it's Ryu, no Ryu, get it clear, deal with it. It is Joshi, not Yoshi. Get it clear. And deal with it. Well, the funny thing here is, again, lots of beat 'em ups do the same, but at least, in the case of the same sprite, at least they make an effort to change the names. In this one, they do not make any effort whatsoever. This guy is Reggie, and it is always Reggie. This other guy is, I think, Case? No, it is Kato. The one wearing white, I think it's called, different way. Captain. Again, originality at its finest. But again, the way to go is usually that. Go for the throw. It is safer and you do more damage. And the jump attacks as well, but again, they're really not that great. And he does some sort of kick. Usually try to counter up right after he does that kick thing. He's calling for reinforcements. In the meantime, as you are trying to get rid of all the minor enemies, that apparently there is only one of them that actually came to the rescue. You can still take on the boss. I don't know why this guy's called Bullet. He doesn't shoot anything. There is no enemies with guns, which would have made this game actually a little bit more tougher. Yeah, there I made the mistake of basically standing up and go for the frontal attack. Again, wait for him to do the kick, sliding kick or whatever, and grab him. I mean, if you can do the full combo, you would do as much damage as a throw. Oh yeah, the throw there is actually very cool. Nelson's throw, because if you got an enemy right behind him, even in the middle of the throw, he also gets hit by it. And that's the end of Captain, everybody. And also, that's the end of this part. So thank you very much for watching, guys. And I'll see you next time.